This is my first video for a little while, and if you are not in the costuming community online, or you are watching this at some point in the future, just to bring you up to speed, there has been some drama and lots of debate and discussion in the community in general, and I have made the decision to let go of the peacock dress project. It was just safer for everybody if we just draw a line under it and reset. My first thought in terms of what to do instead or what to do next was to pick a similar dress and carry on in the same vein. It was becoming clear though that every time I mentioned something to do with this dress, boom, it all blows up again. So I think in order to create the safest space possible and to ensure we're all having fun, it is just best to completely hit the reset button and do something new. I am pretty much at peace with leaving it where we did, because we left it, if you think about it, at quite a neat place where we solved the puzzle, we figured out how it was made. There's a neatness to where that ended. So I'm at peace with it. I hope that I can get you excited about something new, and that's why I've got some books out. We're going to pick a new project today. So I will put details below of all of these books here. This comes with a big disclaimer. You do not need a whole bunch of big fancy books to have fun with costuming, with sewing. You can do plenty with what you can find online. I'm not going to claim that anything in these books is available online, because that would be to do a disservice to these authors who put an awful lot of work into these books. Writing a book is a major, major project, so much respect to everybody who's written these books. So I'm going to take you through a few of the things I thought about, and also you've got to keep in mind that I've been sewing for literally 30 years this year, so this is, a whole career's collection, and I do have kind of a book problem. So anyway, this is the first book I'm looking at. This is a book about the collection of the Musée des Arts Décoratifs in Paris, and this is one of the dresses I thought about. This is by Jacques Doucet, who was a contemporary of Worth. He was down the street at 21 Rue de la Paix, I think, or 23. So much were they contemporaries, their children used to play together. So this dress is just a fabulous dress of about the same time, 1900, 1905. And I like it because it's got bees on it. I just love that. There's something very silly about a dress with bees on it.
I'm covered in bees!
That's one of the ones I loved. And I loved about that there was kind of embroidery involved, but it was just, there was just something silly and fun about the bees. So this was the second book I pulled out. This is Lucile, who was a well-known designer of, again, about this 1890s, 1900s period. She's probably known most for a period a little bit later, kind of 1910s. Fun fact, Lucile, Lady Duff Gordon, was on the Titanic and survived. This is a really interesting dress. It's called Carsot. I hope I've pronounced that correctly. This is a book actually showing a book of her designs from 1905, which was recently discovered. And as the author was writing this book, a dress came up for auction that is in one of these drawings. So they have a pretty unique situation where they have the dress and the pictures of the interior of the dress, and they have the design. So I love these kind of things where you've got lots of information about a specific dress or a specific outfit. I don't know whether that's as much my style. I'm not quite that frilly. So, I love Lucile because of she used very delicate fabrics a lot, so that would have been a nice challenge. So that was a possibility. But again, I'm thinking in terms of maybe let's pick something just completely different and go somewhere else with this. So there you go to Dior. Now this is an amazing book because it not only gives a history and the story, it also gives lots of examples of the clothes, and Dior was just incredibly innovative in that he came in just after World War II with the new look. After the rationing of World War II, He used tons of fabric and was very feminine with his design, so he completely went against the grain. And it was like he sort of embodied a new era, so he really captured the zeitgeist. And not only that, but the craftsmanship in Dior clothes is just second to none. And he really brought back also the idea of couture technique, in the sense that he took Victorian construction methods and was really making the clothes in a painstaking way. And not only that, but in a very innovative way. Some of the pattern cutting is incredible. And one of the things I love about this book is that it gives pictures of clothes, pictures of the details of construction, and then in some cases you get not only the interior pictures and the design and the photograph of somebody wearing it, and the construction details, you also get a pattern. And that is game-changing, because couture clothes at this level were not necessarily straightforward. You can't just buy a pattern for a 50s dress and come up with some of these clothes. You can see, particularly with Dior clothes, you've got this whole inner skeleton with, well, it's calling it a corset, more of a corselet, and really a skeleton understructure that the dress is then built onto. You know, the dress is built, not sewn. Well, it is sewn, but you know what I mean. So here's another one where, you know, the pattern cutting is not obvious. It's very unusual. So there's an opportunity here to explore something I don't know much about. I've might tried to make a Dior-like dress before, but this is just, there's fun involved here, or at least I would look at it as fun. My maths side would be interested in that. And just watching all of this come together would be incredible. So that was another possibility. There's also, we're going to go to mid-century. You can't not talk about Charles James, who is not as well known a name as Christian Dior, but amongst dressmakers, amongst people who know fashion, absolutely innovative. He was really a sculptor more than anything, and made incredible dresses. This is the one I particularly love. This is called Swan, because if you see at the back here, it's sort of folded in at the back like a swan's wings. And Charles James made dresses with just the most extraordinary level of structure underneath, just layers upon layers of very strange and interesting shapes. And not only that, but he donated his toiles and his patterns to the Metropolitan Museum. So we have pictures of the toiles and how the clothes worked. We have pictures of the patterns. You've got a jigsaw puzzle. How is that not fun? And then we get into, well, do we really need to make evening dresses? Because, as you can imagine, over the last 10 years, I have had to ignore an awful lot of squirrels.
Squirrel!
To stay on track with my previous project. And so there's all sorts of stuff that I've wanted to get in on and couldn't. There are a million things I would like to make. And in particular, I mean, 10 years ago, I was a different person when I was 38 than I am at 48. I'm going to admit there was a little bit of ego in what I was doing with my previous project, as in doing something seemingly very ambitious. I don't have the same need to prove myself as I did back then, which is a good feeling. And I also want to get in on the way that costuming has changed over the last 10 years, which is 10 years ago, it really was mostly about the big dress for the event, you know, the big thing for the event, whether it's a ball or a dinner or whatever it is. There's much more of a trend now for the history bounding, the idea of making these clothes that we could actually wear every day and not just put in a cupboard most of the time. So, you know, daywear, I haven't had much opportunity to make stuff I can actually wear. Most of the stuff you've seen me wear is based on a couple of skirts I've made. That's it. The rest of it is pretty much vintage, or this is bought. But, you know, I fell in love with this suit a long, long time ago. This is 1890s brown velvet wedding outfit with a cape and very full sleeves. I just love the shape of this. This is a lovely book. It's a very, very old book. It was written in the 60s. I like the old edition better. If you know this book well, this is one of the basic first books I bought, certainly, that my generation bought. I love it because it's full of these drawings. No patterns, but drawings and measurements and lots of detail, and it's just beautiful to browse through. But this is something I fell in love with a long time ago, so I'm starting to think now in terms of, well, do I need to make a fabulous ball gown? Could I actually make something I could wear? I mean, look at Worth. We think of Worth as being all about the fabulous ball gowns. Not at all. They did a lot of day wear as well, some beautiful tailoring and the details on here, the kind of top stitching and the applique and the 3 collars on, just amazing stuff that I haven't had a chance to look at properly. The number of books I've bought in the last 10 years going, yeah, when I get around to it, I'll make that. Tons of ideas here. These are the photographs from the Worth archive in the V&A. This one is a particular favourite. Look at that. With a sort of theatrical vibe to it there. I love that. Heliotrope velvet, which is kind of greeny, yellowy, browny kind of colour, I think. Green tussore silk and taffeta with applied braid, 1905, that is just beautiful. And you know, there's a case for going completely the other way and doing something really, really simple. What if I went back to basics? I mean, this is the nerdiest book I own. Shirts, 1840 to 1920s. So this is just a book about shirts and the development of shirts. And I'd really like to make just a shirt and find out more about how that works. I've heard people say in the past, or when I've asked people what they would like to see me make next, somebody had this really good idea and they said to me, I'd love to see you do something really, really simple, actually the opposite, and just do it really, really well. So that was up there too. But eventually, this is the last book I'm showing you, eventually I did come to something that was kind of a good mix of both. It's something I can wear and something that's got a bit of challenge and ambition in it. And it's one of those pieces that everybody pretty much knows. It's one of those pieces that comes up on social media and on Pinterest, and everybody's like, oh, I love that one. I don't think I know of anybody who's actually tried to recreate it yet. And I have researched it, and I can't find any baggage, but if you do find baggage with this piece, tell me now. It is this coat. This is a velvet coat by a department. It's not even a couture item. It's by a department store called Marshall and Snellgrove, which is just a brilliant name. And it is made of deep purple velvet, and it has embroidery of a flower called Sweet Cicely. I always thought it was cow parsley, but it's Sweet Cicely. This is a sort of arts and crafts era, so there's a lot of interest in natural botanical forms and wildflowers, and this has made its way onto this coat. Artistic and aesthetic dress was a movement starting in the 1870s, I want to say, maybe 1880s, and it was very avant-garde against the grain. It was a natural form, no corsets if you dared, and by the 1890s, which is when this was made, this was where the arts and crafts ideal was coming into the mainstream. So this is a coat that was made possibly after a couture design for a department store, and I just love it. I just love it because, you know, it's a showstopper, but it's also wearable. I mean, you could either adapt this into a coat and make it a little bit shorter maybe, and make it into a coat to wear outside. You could make it in a different fabric and do that. Velvet, I'm not sure is a great fabric for a coat for an English winter, but I do love the idea of making it as sort of a house coat. I am the neshest person I know, and nesh is like a Nottingham word from this area where I live, meaning you feel cold. I'm always looking for something put on to make me warmer, so I can imagine just swishing around the house in this. I love the embroidery because it's very show-stopping, but also it's not that complicated. It's just silk threads couched down, there's some leaves in there, little felt flowers that are sewn on with one French knot each. So there's a lot of it, but it's kind of doable as well, I think. You know, it's not every last inch of it covered embroidery. It has 5 panels, back 2 sides, 2 fronts, long sleeves, with these inserts of white silk covered in a white machine-made lace, and it has this beautiful stand-up collar, which is stiffened with wire. I love it because it's ambitious but doable. It's wearable, as in I won't need to wear a corset. It doesn't need to be part of a historical outfit. I can throw it on over anything. Just throw on my fabulous velvet coat. I mean, the most extra house coat ever. It has a practicality to it, whilst also being ridiculous. I love the contrasting colours. I really love a contrast of colours. I know that really suits me as well, so I'm really drawn to that kind of thing. I love that it's just something that I've been looking at for years, that many of us have seen. I just love the idea of taking these clothes from the past and recreating them so that we can see them move and turn and see how they really worked, rather than just seeing them in a static photograph. And so that we can appreciate the craftsmanship of the past, and so we can appreciate what really went into this. That's why I'm doing all of this. That's why I do these things. And it's just a time when people like William Morris and the arts and crafts movement were really championing the handmade, the sustainable, as a protest against, what had happened in the Industrial Revolution, the way that machine-made goods had become not quite ubiquitous at that point, but had become common to the extent that handcrafts were being lost, or they felt that they were being lost. So they were championing the handmade, which is exactly what we're doing. For all of those reasons, I love this coat. I think it would be a great project. I think it would be one that would be fun for you to watch. And it also has an element of challenge in it, not just the embroidery, but the fact that it is made of velvet. If you have ever tried to work with velvet, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. It is not an easy fabric to sew. It tends to move around and have a life of its own and a will of its own, so slightly scared about the velvet, but we will see, and you will have fun watching me fight with it. It also conveniently fits in with the theme of the Foundation's Real competition. Not that I can officially enter, I'm not going to go and compete for a prize in my own competition, but my team and I are allowed to enter for fun, so there's like a special category for just the team. So we can enter, but we're not like part of the voting or the judging, so if we want to, we can. And I think that would be fun to get involved. We'll see whether I can do this in time. But I'll be in the trenches with you if you're entering. So that's what I'm doing. That's the reveal. We're making a Marshall and Snellgrove evening coat made of silk velvet, decorated with silk and applique embroidery and insertions of machine-made lace. So that's it. I will be back at some point in January, I believe, with another video about this project as we get going on this. I will set expectations for next year. As things start to open up again, I have started travelling again, so I won't necessarily be able to give you videos that are quite as perfectly consistent every single month at the end of every single month as before. I'm going to go again for just that end of the month video and try and guarantee a video a month. The timing may sometimes be a bit off because of when I'm travelling, so I will keep in touch with you on when to expect something from me, and let's get back to the fun part. So let me know in the comments what you are working on or what projects you are thinking about for the new year, and if you would like to learn a little bit more about sewing and get some tutorials for free, there is a link in the description below to get a free level membership of Foundations Revealed, and that will get you some free stuff. And I will see you next month.